Hey, is social networking dying? This is one of the most interesting topics of 2018, especially with different topics such as Facebook's Cambridge Analytica, Microsoft acquisition of LinkedIn, and a bunch of other areas that have been covered over the past few years. So, in a nutshell, what I'd like here is to jump on a call with Alex and Demeter, and we are going to brainstorm in a kind of mastermind matter regarding the evolution of social networks over the past years, what has changed lately, how is social networking used, and other topics over the next 30 minutes or so. So let's start with some brief intros. Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex. I like to help people. I work at IBM and I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, but I also try to stay in touch with people over the phone, over the Facebook, and whatever makes sense to them, not to me. That's it.
Mitko?
Hi, thanks, Mario. So my name is Demeter. You can find me online on LinkedIn under the name of Demeter Nikolov. I'm based in Sofia, Bulgaria, and I also have a personal blog at demeter.co, which I've been trying to revive for the past year or so. Professionally, I'm a digital strategist and delivery manager working as a contractor. So I like to say that I work at the intersection of business and technology, helping companies plan and deliver complex software projects. And I am an avid WordPress supporter, which, if I recall correct, is how we actually met a long time ago, Mario.
Absolutely, that was definitely how we've met. So yeah, I run Devrix. It's a distributed WordPress agency with about 30 people. We do lots of interesting WordPress projects for high-scale publishers, which is why we spend a lot of time on social networks trying to gauge engagement and interest from people. And also I do run different initiatives regarding my own personal brand, which is why I've noticed certain things that we are going to discuss over again the next 30 minutes or so. So I took a look at Hootsuite's 2018 social media survey, and I just grabbed several kind of numbers from their stats book for 2017 and the end of 2017. So average time online for across the worldwide, is approximately 6.5 hours on a daily basis. Average time on mobile is a little bit over 3 hours. About 52% of the user base is mobile users, which is probably doesn't come as a surprise, but still worth noting. Also, what Hootsuite claim based on their survey is that every third minute on mobile is on a social network, which is one of the reasons why we're on this kind of mastermind right now. And also 60% of internet users are in social media for entertainment. So what I'd like to kind of cover and probably start with in terms of our discussion is how has social networking started? What do you guys remember from the old days of bulletin boards and forums, ICQ, MSN, AO, Messenger, and so forth? And how has that evolved to all the myriad of social networks that we have nowadays? Who wants to take the lead on this one?
I was the most, let's say, the person with most social behavior back then when we were those, because I wanted to be reachable. So I created MRC account. I was ICQ was with the less digits was mine because ICQ user accounts were with digits and they were adding up like IDs. So then I started creating communities around me, speaking to them in group chats in ICQ about teen stuff when I was a teen. Then when social media started, it was a hype. It was interesting to me to create accounts in every social media which I could get reach to. So I created accounts in several social medias, which like Orkut, which was a meeting site. I didn't know it was, but I wanted just to have account in everything to be reachable. You never know. So with time, my Facebook was the calendar of the birthdays of my contacts. So I'm just reaching out to them to say hi, happy birthday. And back in maybe 2010. LinkedIn started to make sense when I started. Most of my professional life, I started 26, 28. So there, LinkedIn started to make sense because I was connecting with people based on their names and their companies. Then, well, that's it more or less. My history of social media. I started, and I still want to be reachable, but I just can't keep up with all the social networks that require good mobile phone. Mine is a cheap one. So this is how I missed the hype of Instagram and all the social media that required a Android or iOS phone to have account. Thanks.
Guys, do you remember the time when webmaster used to be a word and it would be so cool? Everybody would deploy these old PHP nuke and nucleus CMS content management systems, and we'd build like small niche news sites, and everybody would start up forums. And even a bit earlier, back when like everybody used to have pages, the anonymous days of the web, like you would have pages on GeoCities, and in Bulgaria we actually had the alternative, like the free.bg and the hit.bg servers, where everybody would just post up this random with a lot of animations HTML pages and things. It was a good old time. And then, you know, I just remember at some point what happened was that, was it Facebook that emerged first? Well, there were like a few services before Facebook, MySpace, obviously, but MySpace for me was always a very weird space where everybody would just post music on their websites and embedding it, and it would play loud in your browser. But you know, Facebook came in, and at first I do remember that because I used to live like in a neighborhood where a lot of people would like go out in the afternoon, and then 2008, 2009, a bit earlier, Facebook came in. So 2, 3, 4 years after it became popular, especially in Bulgaria, the neighborhood went completely empty in the afternoon. Like all the kids would be at home browsing whatever they could of the profiles of their friends. So it was crazy. And at some point, at that time I was a blogger, and I had a couple of news sites and a lot of satellite sites when SEO used to be a fairly easy craft. And you'd build satellite websites and propel your sites forward. I actually started a media agency, so I had like 5 or 6 news sites publishing news about anything but politics. And one of my managing partners had Facebook pages with 1.5 million users in Bulgaria. At that time, this was the amount of users in the Bulgarian internet.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
Yeah, it was very powerful, and that was around 2013 or 14. So Facebook pages still had reach. It was still easy if you had the reach and if you were willing to invest money. It was still, let's say, giving you enough ROI for you to build an audience and actually be able to send your message to them. So we were able to launch these new sites with quite a lot of traffic. And then I think from there, as soon as like the social media boom kicked in, it all went downhill just because reach started going down, advertising rates started going up. Then suddenly a lot of different social networks came in, and it was so hard to keep traction. I seriously do not envy today's entrepreneurs that need to be on 5 or 6 social media profiles at the same time, posting content specialized for every single different channel. It's such a different age today that, you know, it's changed quite a lot.
Absolutely. SEO evolved a lot. The way people build communities evolved. Like I still remember forums with different kind of topic areas, meeting people by interest, which was again quite intriguing because you pretty much know that everyone who's there has common interests with you, and you sign up only if you're really engaged in that specific community. So it was very community driven. Doesn't really compare with what we have right now in Facebook groups, because you still have a lot of kind of random people, ghost people, promoters, advertisers, and whatnot on one end. Also, yeah, SEO evolved quite a lot. There are plenty of social networks nowadays. Lots of publishers and companies and brands and people and everyone is relying on social media, while we have certain problems, such as again the uncertainty when Microsoft purchased LinkedIn, what happened with Facebook due to the Cambridge Analytica scandal, Snapchat's IPO, and a lot of other things. So people don't really know what's going on, like Facebook acquiring Instagram and WhatsApp's also acquisition, like plenty of things happening in the space, and people can barely catch up and figure out what's going on. One of the interesting things I see that I think last year the Facebook's population for teenagers, well, actually people 14 to 24, decreased by 10% because youngsters believe that their parents and grandparents are on Facebook, so basically it doesn't make sense for them to be there, right? It's they want some privacy, they want some interaction with their kind of classmates and so forth, and it no longer makes that much sense being on Facebook for them. So they're jumping on Instagram and Snapchat and other networks. Facebook is still being the dominant one. LinkedIn is kind of a bit weird space right now because again, it's a business network, but youngsters don't really accept it as one for business. And at the same time, there's so much Facebook over the past 6 months with selfies and videos from the beach and whatnot. So it's quite a weird space indeed. So what I've been thinking pretty much is, why do people use social network? And kind of my picks are for several reasons. First one, especially the Facebook type, is your classmates, your mother, your kind of close relatives, kind of the first degree friends from your area or school or whatever, because Messenger is a pretty powerful application, works extremely well, and Facebook is more about like real life interactions, pretty much. Then we also have kind of second tier connections or colleagues or kind of more professional or distant relations, like types of contacts that you've met but you don't necessarily chat with. Then we have kind of personal branding and also companies trying to promote for one reason or another. So that's kind of my go-to list. And I'm pretty sure that the first one is more or less the same, like people who already meet in the downstairs, they're still going to interact one way or the other, be it Facebook Messenger or Viber or Hangouts. But what about the other mediums? What do you guys think? Like, how about just interacting with folks that you've met 6 months ago at the conference or a former colleague of yours? Like, are they still in your network? Do you keep in touch with them, or you just like a status every now and then?
Yeah, well, for me, LinkedIn has actually been a fantastic tool to keep up with contacts from previous job roles or from conferences where we've met, even from, let's say, random places where we've just happened to be, I don't know, at some mutual friend's birthday, and then you suddenly start talking about digital and tech, and everybody else just leaves the table and heads somewhere else. So LinkedIn, at least, seems to be a very good place to send a private message to someone today, as long as at least you've met once. I don't know about you, gents, but I have stopped checking my messenger more than I think once every day, since I've been spammed so much by anyone from my friends list in Facebook over the past months that I just gave up. I couldn't keep up with that. So LinkedIn is the way to go, at least when you're a business guy.
I can comment on this. There is a cure for your pain, Mitko, but it's quite a different topic. It's just on notifications and taking a look on what makes sense to you personally. Here I would like to put on the table my social strings theory. That's a kind of a jokey way to describe the way people interact. Now, you imagine a string like this one. You pull the string and the person says, oh. And you have a connection line with this person. Like, I can call somebody. He may pick the phone or he may not pick the phone. So I can write to somebody in Viber or in Facebook Messenger or in LinkedIn. He may or may not reply. I'm just left with the try. Now, here is the personal touch of this theory. You need to have personal knowledge of the person to know on what channel he interacts, on what channel he or she responds. For example, I have friends that I meet on the playground because I'm a daddy, and I made friends with some daddies and mommies of the friends of my child. So one person is totally no other way to reach except for phone. Another is on Messenger. Another is on Viber. And there are persons who can you can reach on any way you want. For my professional life, I also am, hit with this strings theory because my professional contacts, not all of them are on LinkedIn. I would like to keep professional conversations on LinkedIn, but you never know. You can contact somebody on Facebook, maybe. I don't know. I always like to do one-on-one conversations or like meetups like this one, but I always like to contact one person. Now, here comes when the other side of the social strings theory, when you like to contact a community. Like, for example, think of yourself having a very hard to solve operating system problem, and you need to search somewhere and you don't find. So you need to contact a community of people who are supporting this or who are fans of this operating system and could help you. Now here comes the metaphor of the Leviathan. It has been developed like a meta person, a super person made of persons to describe the states, the national states. So
The
here,
Ubermesh.
I'm not really sure if
No,
this is
I'm kidding. Yeah, I get the point. Yeah, move on.
Yeah, the idea is that to contact the community, it's more faceless. So you can contact one, you can post where the community stays, and you don't care who answers your question. You can maybe get an answer from Mario, from Mitko, from Alex, but you don't care. You want your question answered. And then you start contributing again, being a little bit more faceless there. Yes, it contributes to your personal brand, but you are pushing up this Leviathan of the community. So this is my ideas of contacting. You always need to make to know the right string to pull, and if you can't, well, find a way. Try and error or something.
One thing I found particularly useful and actionable is I'm not much of a gamer, so I was never hooked up into games even when I was a teenager. But for some reason, I've always liked the Grand Theft Auto series. Up until the fourth, I've never played the newer ones. But in GTA 4, I just remember it when that came out. You would have friends inside the game, right? And these friends would call you up on the phone and try to arrange meetings with you. So every single time you said, "Sorry, man, I can't," there was this little bar here, this part of the screen that shrunk. So this stuck in my head, like, what if every single one of us, for the relationships that actually matter, had this small bar here where you know that at some point you have to interact in person, you know that at some point you have to have a call, otherwise the bar will shrink, your friendship is obviously fading. And if you can't, at least interact over IM or email. So I've been following this like very simple rule for my most important friendships because everybody's busy today and it's increasingly harder to keep touch with people, which is a paradox in the 21st century. But for me, it's been working miraculously. You know, I just try to keep my friendship bar as full as I can for my most important friends.
Yes, and never forget the birthday.
Yeah, too.
But I also like to comment on stuff that my friends post to say, hey, you do great, fine, or just to add value to them or something. This also helps me.
That's how this relationship sprang up today, right?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing. So there are several kind of trains of thought that we are kind of discussing right now, and I definitely do agree with kind of the social string theory for pulling someone from the right channel, and I definitely see that happening. Like I have people who I interact with on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Quora, on Viber, on phone, or different types of mediums. And for example, I don't really use my phone. I don't use Facebook for years now, and like some people are pretty much failing to reach out to me because those are kind of the only channels they use. And I've also haven't been using Facebook for years. And like last week, I had to reach out to a business owner who is only using Facebook, and I tried to connect with her twice on LinkedIn over the past month, gave up, and had to kind of resort to Facebook. So that's what I find weird, because the way social networks work, they're fairly extensive. Like, for example, I know Alex is against push notifications, and for instance, when I want to reach out to someone who is on a specific network, like they have an account, I probably saw them liking some status or posting something like several days ago. I have literally no idea whether they will see my message or kind of in what period of time. It's going to be within an hour, within a day, within a week, within a year, or never. I mean, pretty much. So that's what I see as a problem with social networks right now. It really is like back in the day when we had, say, ICQ. I remember that everyone was either offline or had an ICQ, right? You just know that. Of course, there were the MSN people. We know that. We remember that. Or even Yahoo Messenger or AOL. But that was like an extra thing for your colleagues probably from work, and not really what you use on a daily basis and what you have on your kind of desktop computer back then. So nowadays it's pretty much different. Like I see people on different social networks, they do interact with others, but they're not that really engaged with them. They're not, and kind of the main problem and the main challenge I've been facing is that lots of accounts are pretty much on auto posting. Lots of people are just sharing content every now and then, and usually they use Buffer or Meet Edgar or some of the other automated tools, and they just blast content without taking a look at their notifications or their comments. And you try to engage one way or another, and your comment just leaves unnoticed. So it kind of defeats the purpose. Like they want to get the engagement because they need the reach, they post some content, and then they don't interact. And like there's that mismatch which I don't really quite get. So what do you guys think for that?
Are we talking about selling, creating brand, or people like wanting to augment their personal brand?
Well, I would say it's both. Like it's just so that's extremely common for Twitter for me. Like 5 years ago, Twitter was the shit for me. It was pretty much the thing that I've been using all the time. I had a whole network of people, hundreds of people I've been interacting with on a weekly basis. We were kind of collaborating, say, WordPress plugins together, translating things, just really actively working on the community. Nowadays, 70% of those accounts are disabled or just not in use. Many of the other accounts are barely taking a look at their profile or just auto-posting their latest blog post or latest video or sharing Instagram on Twitter, stuff like that. So they appear to be active, but it's pretty much another way of sharing something that they do on other networks or like Foursquare statuses or whatever it is.
People are a little obsessed today with the notion of networking, and I find it sad that very few people are obsessed with the notion of having good dialogue. I personally saw this, for example, when Medium was still in its infancy period. I mean, I remember the amount of reach to quality readers that you would have, and under quality readers, I just mean people who want to trade genuine dialogue and comment on your posts was amazing. Even though it had a very small audience, I mean, I have this story. This one time, I actually wrote a Medium post. It was called "The Minimum Viable Story." So I was just preaching about how a lot of companies have this story of struggle that the founders have overcome throughout years, etc. And then Eve Williams, who is like the founder of Medium, said, "Hey, good post, thank you." And actually, like a real conversation sprang up from there. So two problems with the social networks of today, if we can call it like that. One is just oversaturation of, as Jen said, buffer posts everywhere. I have nothing against your, your profiles turning into any like a wall of random publications found from the internet with a lot of hashtags, but at least comment on your own post, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I've had in numerous occasions I comment on someone's post and I see a lot of other comments and there's nobody replying. And this totally kills the whole idea of social networking, which is at the end of the day create dialogue and connection.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Well, you won't. We are. I would like to make a parallel with the way web pages were made in the early
Good
new
old days.
millennium, in the early days, where you created a table and you put contents in the cells of the table, and there were some long blocks saying, no, that's not the way. You need to use H1, H2, how it's called, subtitles and everything, and put them in the correct way. So basically, the search engines started to pick on the good pages and started to segregate away the bad pages, and this started to be like a machine, natural natural segregation done by the machine of the search engines. Then if you like to do a decent SEO, you needed to make web pages the way they were meant to be, the way HTML was meant to be. Now, if you want to make social conversation, then make it like it's meant to be. You want to conversate, okay, conversate. You want to do a press release, stick it on the wall, and don't comment on this or disable the comments. But we are in the world of the group of one. So you are talking to me because you want to talk to me. I want to interact with your brand because I want your brand, because I am me. I'm not a part of the Sofia city population that are using mobile phones in their 30s or something. I am me. So talk to people. If you want to create a decent social strategy, or you want to be decent on social media, just be person, be a person. Well, it's good to be to use a good humor, or you to be uh, specific to the persons, but it's not really needed. You want just to be on there and be the one replying and taking care of the conversations. Well, there are very many automated tools to get sentiment out of posts, tweets, and so on and so forth. And you can use them to create a meta object of how your brand is, how it is popularity, how it is, where it is, and so on. But if you want to interact with people, interact with people. You want speak to me, speak to me, not to all the internet out there. And
Yeah.
I think it's changed a lot with the mobile phone carriers. You go, you sign a contract. You are a 70-year-old person. You sign a contract. They tell you get this phone for free. You get it for free. Later on, you see that you are paying four bucks for for it every month. But you say, okay, let's install Facebook, punk, and there you are. You are on the social media. This is how it all started to change, I think. And how the Generation Z is picking this up, your comments, Mario, were very valid. And I think you want a good social media strategy for Generation Z, you need a different one. That's not, I don't know, maybe influencers, maybe creating much content. But another thing of today's world is not the only that we are a group of one, but it's the swipe away. Like you are taking a look at the picture, you swipe away, and swipe away, and so on and so forth. You need to take care of these also.
And Alex, just to emphasize your words here, I completely agree. And this is part of a larger trend. I don't know if you gents have read the book Brand New by Wally Ollins, but uh, this is a fantastic book that just emphasizes the larger scale trends in marketing and branding over the past, let's say, decade. So if you look at every single company, whether it's a big food and drinks company, whether it's a big cosmetics company, every single one of them is trying to be more and more authentic, just as so that they can be able to reach their consumers in a more genuine and empathetic way. So L'Occitane, for example, is starting to advertise the origins of its product and the fact that they're from the Provence somewhere in France, right? And I see that a lot of businesses, especially like the smaller and medium-sized businesses, are having a real problem with creating their own personality and with emphasizing and using their own voice so that they can stop sounding like a robotic poster on social media. This is especially true for the tech sector, by the way, and they can actually develop some genuine connection with their audience and with their customers.
Yeah, that's definitely a major problem, and I think that it's worth having a completely separate conversation for kind of company branding and also the most pressing problem that most companies face, which is employment and recruitment, which is I'm not even going to touch this with a 10 feet pole right now because it's going to take at least
We
17
can talk
hours.
about it until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Absolutely, at least, and just barely touch the surface. So yeah, as a kind of as a grande finale or so, like, what do you guys think would be kind of the future of connections and networking and basically being able to continue those interactions? Because we've already started with, we had bulletin boards, we had IRC, we had, ICQ and MySpace and some other channels. And now we have social networks, and we have plenty of them. And we have iMessenger on mobile, which kind of bonds Apple people in some weird way, or Hangouts for Android users. And like, again, different types of bonding and connecting people through those channels. On the other end, we have Slack, which is trying to also expand across communities, not just being used for conversations and work. Then we have Facebook, which is trying to invent Facebook for work in order to retain people on its network. Like, it's getting really complicated. So, like, what are your thoughts on this one? Like, I genuinely wonder whether we are going to have social networks 10 years from now, or we'll have VR headsets like Google Glass or something else to keep in touch with people, whether it's going to segregate or have something like we had Miranda back in the day, like having one messenger that also lets you interact through ICQ and Skype and this and that and this and that and Hangouts and Jabber's protocol and whatnot. Because right now it's not. It's extremely hard to keep track of everything that you're maintaining. You don't have a single app to, again, just aggregate all of your data. And most people just sign up everywhere, use one or two channels sporadically, have a hard time connect with others. As Alex said, for his parent friends, like, it's pretty much having to know for every single person what's the right way to touch base with them. So what do you think is the future of social networks or connections and interactions in 5 or 10 years from now?
I think the life will be more and more getting into the physical world and less into the tech world. That's just personal opinion. I'm not really sure if this will be the case, but I see interactions with people, and I want to meet them in the physical world. Then all those handheld devices or handheld devices are for some kind of slacking, like you just just to pass the time, and sometimes something interesting will pop and pop and pop. I will see. I think the social media in the future will still continue to exist, but it will be for overseas contacts or contacting people that you can't just meet. It's hard, like you, Mario. We are maybe 5 kilometers away living, but we never met for our maybe 6 months interaction in LinkedIn. So I think that the social media will continue to exist, but the brands and the people will need to adapt to this existence of different social media. I think they will still be more and more pinpointed, like maybe LinkedIn and video. Man, please, LinkedIn you can't go to some person's LinkedIn activity and scroll 2 weeks away. It's just breaking. So I think LinkedIn will start to use less and less of those, and use more and more of those that they do good, as well as all the other platforms will start doing less of the things they do bad, and more of the things that they do good, like this particular chat that you are broadcasting on this particular channel because they are just good. So that's my idea. But how to keep up with them? And if you are a small company, let's make another chat. There are many ideas, but let's do another chat with this.
That's quite a good point, actually, Alex. And this was in my thoughts exactly. Contextual interactions. This for me is the future of social media. So right now we've got, I don't know how many social media sites, apps, and what's so not out there. At some point, my small theory is that all of them will gradually evolve into something that enables you to have more and more contextual interactions on the topic that you care about with the people that care about the same topics. And oh, by the way, they're posting about the same topics, whether that's on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. So this is one aspect. Second, which is the big question mark for me on the future of social media, is robotic interactions. So right now, the main agents on social media are people, right? Well, what happens when we continue to evolve artificial intelligence as robotic agents, for example, as brand ambassadors and as call center workers, so that more and more you're actually conversing with AI on the phone and on Facebook Messenger, etc. And what happens when the coffee machine that you're using right now is able to recognize that you are Demeter and you actually prefer mocha latte over a normal espresso, and it suddenly chats you up on your phone and says, "Oh, by the way, would you like to have this? It's on a discount today." So I think it's going to be a very interesting blend between individuals and machines, actually. It's probably going to evolve and to get even crazier, but I have a keen interest in virtual and augmented reality. Interesting fact that even own shares in a firm that's involved in AR and VR production for the construction sector. So I get to involve myself quite a lot in that sector. But what's interesting to me is how the augmented reality is going to change the way that we converse on social media, since at some point I think we will have one digital reality that just creates a blend between the physical world and the information out there, whether that information is for the speed of your car or the name and the keen interests of the person in front of you. So, and this is going to be in a very, very short, in the near future, just because this technology is evolving rapidly. So yes, for me, it's contextual interaction. It's about being genuine. It's about having good conversations, but it's also about the big question mark, how technology, artificial intelligence, and robotics is going to disrupt and change all of this. So interesting times to come.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with you. I see that, I mean, after all, we do have brands creating profiles online so that you can actually interact with the brand or some of their representatives. We do have chatbots, which are extremely gaining popularity increasingly and becoming more and more powerful, being able to order stuff through Messenger or chat through Messenger, and this goes to the company Slack account and stuff like that. So that's definitely evolving. My kind of big dream is just being able to consolidate all those networks and being able to just send a message to someone, and like it's just picking this one account with regardless the network, like just you have some contact details with that person, it just works through one app. So that's definitely my dream goal. So yeah, it was a great chat. Thanks a lot, guys. And for everyone else listening and watching this, please let us know what you think in the comments, because again, this is social and we want to communicate with you. So let us know what you think. I'm extremely interested in that future of social networks and whether they're going to survive or which is going to be the dominant winner, because things change extremely fast. And if you happen to be a startup that's creating that consolidated tool, let me know, because I want to be a beta tester right now and just be able to integrate all of my networks and interact with everyone just from one place, instead of wondering where are they most active on or whatever network out there. So yeah, thanks a lot, and I'm going to share the video on LinkedIn, Twitter, and so forth. And you guys, you can do it as well. Let's tag each other and make sure we can participate in our conversations, unlike the brands that we have just discussed earlier today. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.